All right, let's get into when the Giants are on defense here, because this is the more interesting matchup. Let's be honest. I expect our offense to fall flat on its face. The defense, though, the defense has an interesting matchup here. This Steelers offense, keep in mind, going to look probably different than it did most of the season. As we talked about earlier, Russell Wilson's going to be making a second start. Last week against the Jets, he was 16 to 29, 264 yards, 2 touchdowns. He also ran the ball 3 times for 3 yards and got a touchdown as well. Totally different kind of stat line than Justin Fields would give you. Would give you about 180 passing yards, about 70 or 80 rushing yards instead at that point. Totally different type of thing. You know, you think of the Seattle version of Russell Wilson. He was a very mobile quarterback. Not a spring chicken anymore.
No, I was going to say
he'll still run. Don't get me wrong. He has no problem going outside the pocket, but he's not quick like he used to be.
He'll go run to the Golden Corral.
Yeah. I haven't been to a Golden Corral in years, actually. Sounds good right now. Any buffet. A breakfast buffet, especially. I love a breakfast buffet.
Oh, God, yes.
Oh, yes. Anyway, now the team averages, the Steelers team averages 33.6 rushes per game, guys. That is second in the league. This could be a major issue for the Giants, who really had trouble stopping the run all season long, guys, and got absolutely destroyed, obviously, by Saquon Barkley last week. Not to bring up a sore subject for us.
But there's also a big difference between Saquon Barkley and Najee Harris.
A huge difference. So Najee Harris on the year, 478 yards, while averaging 4.1 yards per carry and 2 touchdowns. The good thing for Giants is what I think you were just alluding to, Rob. This guy's a volume runner. He's not like Saquon, the home run threat, the crazy explosive receiver. This guy is a 4 yards, 4 yards, 4 yards, 4 yards. That's what he does, you know. And he might break it occasionally for a 10, 15-yarder, but that just equals out when he gets stuffed to the line a couple times a game.
I was going to say, there's times where he's going to get stuffed, negative yard, then he gets a 10-yard run. He might turn to like 8-yard run.
Yeah.
Stuff out.
But if you think about it, the Giants, if you take out, again, we talked about it after the game last week, if you take out the big runs he had, which I know is easier said than done, the Giants did pretty well on the rest of the runs. It was like 3 or 4 runs they gave up that were just big, and that gave up most of the yards that Saquon got.
That's what I was going to say.
A guy who can do that.
We've talked about post game. Like, if you want to talk about like that first half where Giants played the best football of the game, obviously it's not saying much, just 4 quarters to 2, but it was just that one big run Barkley had that set up the first touchdown.
Yeah, I mean, that was a third of his running yards for the game there. I mean,
and then
55 yards right there.
And then another, big cash and play, and that's all they had. So
Now, if you want to compare Najee Harris to somebody we played earlier in the season, I thought the best comparison is Brian Robinson Jr. of the Commanders.
Yeah,
they're a similar style. Against us, he had 17 rushes for 133 yards, guys. We talked about it afterwards. Like, me and you were flipping out because here's a guy who never really breaks it, is a steady, 4 yard, 4 yard, 4 yard kind of guy like Najee Harris is. And he looked really good against us. He had probably his best, game of his career at that point, it felt like. At least that I've ever seen him play. Between Giants games and primetime games, I've seen a decent amount of, games for him at that point there. I've never seen him run like he did. That's not a good sign for us against Najee Harris. So, and I'm looking here. He's got 396 yards, Brian Robinson does, in 6 games. He was inactive for 1 of the 7. So 6 games. And 133 yards against us. That's not good. He had one other 100-yard game, and that was against the Cardinals. The rest of his days, 40 yards, 33 yards, 18 yards, and 71 yards last week against the Panthers. The Panthers did better against him than we did.
Wow.
So that's my concern, is that, like, this guy doesn't have the explosive plays that we gave up to Barkley and doesn't do that. But we played a guy who plays just like him earlier in the year, and our defense did not do very well. I'm a little concerned because This is a team, like I said, that runs the ball nonstop. They run more than they pass, guys, which is very rare in this league nowadays. They like run the ball, I think, like the second most in the league.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
I said
literally just
second
said
most.
that.
I did.
Yeah.
I know I read that somewhere. It's on my notes. So like, yeah, this is a team that's going to commit to the run. And if they're having success, guess what's going to happen? They're going to run the ball even more. This is the biggest fear I have in this game, is that the Steelers just run down our throats and just embarrass us all game long. It's a legit concern, I think, for us to have at that point. Because, like I said, the Giants, they're just not good against the run. Their strength is getting to the quarterback. And you know what happens when you go ahead and run the ball? There's no chance to get sacks, guys. There's none.
Yeah.
We're giving up 5.4 yards a carry, guys. That's number 32 in the league. Keep in mind, there's 32 teams in the 32 teams in the NFL. We are dead last. 5.4 yards a carry. The only saving grace his defense has had is that they're not running the ball like crazy on us for some reason. I don't know why, to be very frank. I really don't. You know, it's a little crazy there. You know, we're giving up 138 yards on the ground, 25th in the league. Like I said, Najee Harris is not the guy to do what Barkley did last week. But you can't count it out the way the Giants are playing. Can't. Now, other than Harris, the only player on the Steelers who has over 100 yards rushing is Justin Fields. So therefore, it's going to be Najee Harris, Najee Harris, Najee Harris, and
Najee Harris.
Let's talk about the pass game. We already talked about, Russell Wilson. We all know the history of Russell Wilson. Let's ride the last couple of years and all that kind of stuff. Let's talk about the receivers he has. So George Pickens is the big one. 31 receptions, 474 yards, 1 touchdown on the season. Next up, you got Calvin Austin III. I think he's out.
Yeah.
11 receptions, 203 yards, and 1 touchdown. No other wide receiver has more than 100 yards, guys. Remember what I said before about passing the ball? They don't do it very often. They're a much more running team. Think about that. Not a single player 7 weeks through the season has more than 100 yards.
Nuts.
That's not good. Now, Pat Fairmouth, the tight end, he does 24 receptions, 245 yards, and 2 touchdowns. But that's it. This team simply doesn't throw very often. When they do, they throw it to Pickens, guys. That's the name of the game here in the passing game. Stop George Pickens. He single-handedly accounts for 34% of the passing yards for the Steelers.
It's impressive.
That's damn straight. That's impressive. That's like crazy, because here's a team that's not prolific throwing the ball, and his stats are pretty damn good. Because you figure he is still on pace for a 1,000-yard season right now, plus. So that's pretty damn impressive. Now, Deonte Banks, that's where the big question comes in. He's got to make it up for last week, guys. A few weeks ago, he was called out by defense backs coach Jerome Henderson. Came back, had his best game of the season. This week, everybody and their mother is calling him out because he dogged it last week. And it was obvious. It was visible when you replay the video, especially, and take a look at those kind of things. It was like he wasn't even hiding it well. So
no, we talked about that too. Like it's almost like he kind of looks like he gave up.
He gave up, and he's making business decisions when he didn't need to. So this is one of those games that I need him to step up and need him to show that he made a mistake last week, and that's not going to happen again. And if he can step up against Pickens and have a really good game, that really helps the Giants. Yeah. Because if you can get rid of Pickens and take him out of the game, you can focus that much more on the run game. And it sounds weird to say that. Usually you go, well, if you run the ball more often, you take pressure off the pass. This is the reverse because we're on defense. If you can take away the star receiver, you're going to force them to want to run the ball more often. But you can focus on the run that much more often.
Yes.
Because they don't have the guy they want to throw it to. You know? So, plus, one of the things that's going to help, I think, really big for Banks at that point, is he's going to have a tough task because Pickett's a big receiver, guys. He's a big physical receiver. Yeah, I think it's going to help him is the fact that the offensive line has struggled all year with protecting the quarterback. They've allowed just 17 sacks, which doesn't sound that bad on paper. That's 14th in the league. But they've only attempted 190 passes, which is the 8th least in the league. So 8.21% of their attempts ended in a sack. That's 24th in the league, guys. That's not good. The Giants literally lead the league in sacks, and they should be able to add to that lead. What I want to see is I want to see Dexter Lawrence get to double-digit sacks. He's got 9. And don't get me wrong, this is not I need Dexter Lawrence to show up. Like, obviously, I need him to show up.
Sexy Dex.
But I don't feel the need to call him out. He's going to do it. You know, it's a different player. He's already at his career high for sacks, guys. 7 games into this season, he's at his career high for sacks in the season.
Remember when everyone's like, how are we going to get sacks without Wink? All that pressure and blitzing.
And people are actually worried about Wink, too, because that's the 2 really good years he had was under Wink. They were worried that losing Wink would crush him. And I said all along, we talked about in the show, Andre Patterson is who coached him up. Not Wink Martindale. Andre Patterson. So, the former Steelers coach, too, by the way. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting matchup. I really do think that. So,
if you like that clip, then you will love the full episodes, too. Find us on your favorite podcast app and look for us on all your favorite social media platforms.
Thanks so much.
Please, I'm begging you. Please subscribe.